seconds later, the YouTube channel is on. And after that, anytime you can start. Have a good day. Have a good session. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you all.
We are both live on Zoom
Okay,
Master and YouTube.
Okay, so I propose to start. Well, good morning, good afternoon to all dear ICOM members and participants. Thank you very much for joining us in these 4 days of International Virtual Museum Conference organized by ICOM Pakistan with the great support of the QMID Turkey. This is the Albanian ICOM session, and I am Dorina Deray-Subashi, museologist, researcher, and the CEO of MuseLab Center. I'm very happy to be the host of this conference today and this session, and moderating as well. I would like to thank the organizers for providing this possibility. The main topic of Albanian session is museum and education. And with your permission, I would like to thank our keynote speaker, Madame Elke Kellner, for accepting the invitation for this talk. I would like to say a brief bio of Madame Kellner. She received the Master of Arts in Art History and also studied archaeology at the University of Vienna, Austria, and the Yale University in the United States. Since 2014, she is Managing Director of ICOM Austria National Committee of the International Council of Museums. She initiated the series of ICOM Palmyra talks to support the fight against looting and illicit trafficking of cultural goods and is expert for the OSSOE in this field. Since 2016, she's lecturing at the master course Cultural Heritage at the Danube University in Krems in Austria. Since 2014, she is board member of Blue Shield Austria, and since 2019 is board member of ICOM Europe. Kellner began her career as an assistant to the director at the MAC Austrian Museum of Applied Arts, Contemporary Art in Vienna, followed by curatorial projects for the Vienna Art Week at TBA 21, Thyssen Goremisha Art Contemporary. From 2006 to 2013, Kellner was working at ORF, Austrian Broadcasting Corporation, Radio 01. Since 2011, as head of the event department and at the same time journalist at the Radio 01 Science Department. In 2013, Kellner also worked as a producer at ORF 3, ORF Austrian Broadcasting Corporation, Art and Science Television. Dear Elke, thank you for being with us today, and thank you for accepting the invitation. The floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Dorina, for this kind introduction. And I would like to thank, of course, ICOM Albania and ICOM Pakistan for the kind invitation to be part of this international virtual conference on museums. And I'm very honored to hold the keynote to today's event. I will now try to share my presentation. I hope everything works out well. Just a second. So. Can you see everything all right? Dorina, is it working?
Yes, we can see. You can start, Elke.
Right.
Thank you.
I would like to present the project Museums as Learning Spaces that has been developed by ICOM Austria together with the Jewish Museum of Vienna. During the past year, the COVID crisis made us painfully aware how important culture and the enjoyment of the arts are to us. Today, we reinforce the creative potential of culture as a driver for recovery, innovation, and a sustainable future. Culture is about our identity and origins. It's about protecting the witnesses of the past, preserving those values that could help today, building a better tomorrow. In a time of upheaval and uncertainty, from the health crisis of a pandemic to the effects of global climate change, especially children and young people are currently facing enormous challenges. In today's age of mechanization and associated accelerated living conditions for children's environment are moving faster and faster. Children and adolescents grow up in a highly
Bugün de siz mi ay başında baş başa yemek yiyorsunuz?
in which information is mainly accessible online. In the difficult time of the corona crisis, the important socio-political role and great responsibility of museums has rightly been pointed out. Museums enjoy high credibility and trust, characteristics that are especially important right now. Museums provide facts and context. They are memory stores and lighthouses for our societies. As a space for cultural learning, museums can convey context and provide first-hand experience. So why not use a whole museum as a classroom? A museum is the perfect space to initiate informal learning processes, to strengthen personal responsibility, and to learn from one's own experiences and views on original objects. In addition to the learning subjects in school, a visit to the museum can encourage pupils to acquire key competences, such as the ability to work in a team, communication skills, or creativity. As informal cultural learning institutions, museums can use these advantages to support the work of schools, to enable school and life to become more closely connected again. In the time during the lockdowns, we have experienced that a lot is possible online. Museums highly improved their efforts in providing digital experiences for their audience. We are able to participate in webinars, just like today, and pupils were often taught digitally instead of sitting in a classroom. But the digital world also clearly has its limits. We dearly missed the direct contact with people, places, and objects. And not everyone has internet access or owns a computer. So the first-hand, real-life experience remains utterly important, and students should be given more opportunities to visit museums. A visit to a museum should be facilitated, and the importance and quality of the museum as a space for learning for schools or universities should be pointed out more clearly. The usual overview tours and topic workshops offered in the museums are already very important and useful educational programs. Additionally to those, museums could function as classrooms. They could combine the positive effects of extracurricular learning with the experience of participation and social interaction. Museums already offer a broad range of possibilities that could be used easily to teach different school subjects. Our educators can supervise students during guided tours, but are also able to provide special work assignments or initiate conversations with museum professionals. Wall text, catalogs, or audio guides can not only be used to mediate art, history, natural history, or other scientific findings. They, for example, can also be used for foreign language training. Also, the surroundings of the museums can offer an exciting fields of activity for work assignments in urban space in order to make the topographical location of the contents presented in the museum personally tangible, together with the museum staff. Special city rallies could be also developed to provide a tangible experience of the learned content. So let me present some examples how teaching units in museums could be implemented. For example, language learning, like reading, summarizing, or editing texts. Text analysis, like reading newspaper articles, letters, diary entries presented in the museum. Listening comprehension on guided tours in a foreign language or using audio guides, or to practice presentation techniques based on the themes that are discussed in the museums. Of course, natural history or regional studies could be taught in the museums, and of course, art education coming naturally, working with the objects from the museum collections. So special exhibitions usually already focus on a very specific topic that can be used to develop educational programs for visitors. But the project Museums as Learning Spaces goes a big step further and enlarges the thematic possibilities. For example, like a practical example, at the Jewish Museum in Vienna, you can not only learn about Jewish holidays and customs or the Jewish history of Vienna, you could use all wall texts in the exhibitions as a basis for language work assignments. Pupils could write reports, interviews, or essays. In a sequence of the audio guide that could be used about the history of the Wiener Ringstraße, it could be used as a listening comprehension in English or French, for example. The possibilities and themes are quite endless and as different as the museums themselves. The museums are thus fulfilling the educational mission, but also demonstrating the overall social commitment. Inequality in terms of access to culture and art can be balanced when a museum visit is no longer considered a special or rare event, but can be regularly integrated into the lessons at school. The COVID-19 crisis has shown how quickly social changes can be required. Museums are spaces for debate and enjoyment, and we should take time to visit them. The exchange of information, knowledge expansion, political education, remembrance, and above all, the joy of getting to know new things are key to our society. Museums and schools together can contribute to this social discourse and lead young people from being students or pupils to becoming museums fans. Thank you.
Thank you, Elke. Thank you for your presentation. You tackled a lot of great and important issues, how to be used and the education take forms in the museum. So thank you again for your informative speech. We will pass to our guest speaker, Brigadier Dr. Adnan Salim. He is the next director, Army Museum, Rawalpindi, consultant, Army Heritage Foundation, President, Museum Association of Pakistan. 2 words about his bio. He joined Army as an infantry officer, and being the son of a renewed educationist, he opted to transfer to Army Education Corps on permanent basis and kept on improving his qualification while he's taking lead in management of educational institutions and various other relevant organizations. He had the honor to be the project director of Pak Army Museum under direct supervision of the then Chief of Army Staff, which included civil works, preparation of complete theme, massive artistic works in the shape of sculptures and realistic digital paintings, writing of complete captions in English and Urdu, and above all, completion of the project in the shortest time possible. Incidentally, the first individual in Pakistan who made the complete thematic museum from scratch for Army Museum, Rawalpindi, Lahore, and all regimental museum as well. He has recently completed 4 display areas in various museums of Pakistan. Dr. Adnan Salim will present his presentation about new skills for museum professionals in Pakistan. Dr. Salim, thank you for being and joining us. The floor is for you.
Thank you very much. May I start, please?
Yes, please.
Okay. Thank you very much for the nice introduction. First of all, I thank ICOM, the all Pakistan, Albania, and Turkey playing the major role, that those are given the opportunity, even this COVID situation, you have kept the things alive. I think this was a big challenge and you are successful in that. And my presentation today is new skills for the museums. And I selected this topic, in fact, incidentally, because there was no qualification with me for this subject, but I was posted to the Army Museum, and this is the lighter part of it. When I was posted, I asked my general that I don't have any experience for the museum, and you have posted me for the renovation of the museum. I don't have any experience and the expertise. He said that I don't need the expertise and the experience, I need the will to do, and you have that, and I'm sure that you are going to do that. So this was my start when I was posted in 2009 in the Army Museum. But this is the beauty of the armed forces, that we learn a lot while doing our projects, and God has given me the opportunity to renovate the museum and going through this process from the old museum to the new museum. And I'm sharing this process in 15 minutes, what I experienced in about 4 to 5 years on job training. The aim of this presentation is to discuss the new skills and trends in the museums in the backdrop of traditional museum skills. And the sequence will be like this. First of all, the old concept of museum skills, which we had, even in Pakistan particularly I'm talking. Then what was my museum before, just a few glimpses. And then the vision which we just decided, and that was approved by the hierarchy and the authorities. That vision will itself explain that what all new skills are going to be incorporated in the and what change will come. And then overview after renovation, I'll just show you a few glimpses, and then from the overview I think we will be able to make that what all new skills are added in this field. And then keep the museum alive, very important thing. And then last 2-3 slides I'll show you the Kazakhstan project which I have undertaken recently. So the old concept of the museum skills, museum building, we all know well, high roof with more sunlight, natural ventilation, which used to affect the weather hazards, moisture, dryness. There was no the control in our hands. Then showcases with lights emitting heat, and naturally the things were the preservation was the major problem. Then the interior displays, mainly I'm talking of Pakistan, that archaeologists mainly they were the major on the driving seat, and making the museums, maintaining the museums, because the preservation restoration expert they have done in archaeology. And then the artifacts and caption displays generally were there, and information through the guides only, because whenever the trips are going, the curator or the guide they are giving the guided tour to the visitors. And then minor periodical updations. Generally the displays used to be the the static or not changing with the time. And again, let me tell you, I'm talking mainly for Pakistan. because it may not apply in other countries what I'm talking. And then research work, naturally, it was on in the old museum as well. Now, these are the few glimpses, the things which I have highlighted. Now, this was the Army Museum. You see in one, they showcase how the glass is depicted, shadows are there. No doubt the artifacts, very rare, very important artifacts have been displayed with the captions and all that, but reflection you can see as well. And then in the gallery, you see the large windows in Pakistan, very hot in these days, which are going. And naturally, the color and the organic material which was displayed. So the preservation and the restoration problem and decay of the things, that was the major problem. So these were the old galleries which I'm showing you. Again, these are the few glimpses. This is the lobby. Again, all open to the sun and heat. Now, after this, when I was assigned the assignment to renovate the museum, so the vision which we decided before making the museum in 2009, I am going to share it with you, that would evolve a magnificent museum portraying our rich history fittingly, grandeur and elegance in edifice, absorbing and convenient layout, appropriate grouping of artifacts in attractive displays, electrifying environment augmented by matching lights and colors, induce inspiration and pride in our glorious past, then concise, precise, and authentic portrayal of history, security of the artifacts, no doubt, then the economical, durable, and sustainable development. So this was the vision which we decided that as per this museum, we'll make the new museum. And after this, now I'll show you the present state of the museum. And then please keep in mind all this vision which I have just explained. Now just see the same lobby which the old was shown before. And it was the thematic museum, first thematic in Pakistan. Now just see this gallery which is on the top. This is the Kashmir War Gallery. And even in this gallery, it is beyond the, one-man show. Sculptures are there depicting the artistic, the artist who has made this. Then the digital paintings are there. Another artist is involved. Then interior colors, font, communication design, product design, all these elements. Then the model making, the all things. So all things are after the architecture work which we carried out, and then the color scheme as per the theme of that gallery, the gray, black, shining colors, whatsoever we decided the theme. So this is as per. Another gallery, this is 71 War, and if you see the theme of the gallery, this is entirely changed. Reason being, the pillars are there and background is like this, because 71 War, most of the visitors may not be knowing that this was not the war, in fact, but this was, which was, you can say, there's a lot of propaganda against Pakistan as well, that we lost the war and all that, but it was not like that. I'm not going in details, but we left it to the visitors. We made the pillars that visitors should explore. The pillars are symbolic, the facts, geographical reality, distance between the two portions of Pakistan, then the interference from the other side, enemy side. So all these factors, if you realize and you explore yourself from the history, then it was almost no-win situation for any best of the best army. So this is, I'm just explained that how we made this theme. This is War and Terror Gallery. And this is again, the challenge to the Pakistan. And Alhamdulillah, we are very proud that we met this challenge, and Pakistan, performing leading role in this war. And this, the war on terror, especially where you don't know your enemy, because there is no boundary, there is no enemy declared, enemy is hidden. And even in the lower picture, if you see, all shadows are there, red lights are there, and the confusion is there, and it's very difficult to decide who is your enemy and who's your friend. So this all war and terror gallery we developed. Naturally, it is not possible to show it in length here, but this was the theme. Again, this is the war and terror gallery. Now this is few glimpses of the lobby where on the left top slide, this is the timeline in which I tried my level best that night from 14 August 1947 to depict the major actions, events of Pakistan and the important personalities like President, Prime Minister, and Army Chief. What happened in what era, and who were the personalities in when some important took place. And then even the courtyard, hanging helicopters and all that. This was the center of the activity of the museum, which I made. And I got this model from Turkey because I visited Turkey, China. They helped me a lot in this. These are the regimental galleries. Now, when I made the museum, I collected the data, carried out the research, took the help of the books. So I made the archive room and the library. The data was in 3 layers. One which was displayed in the shape of captions. Number 2 in the shape which I collected, and number 3 the original documents from where I took the help. So all these documents were preserved in this archive room, and then in digital form as well, and in the hard copy form as well. For the students, those who will undertake the higher studies, this is just for them doing MPhil, PhD in the subject. They'll come and all things will assist them. Then this was very important thing, audio guide system. When I made the museum, so I could brief the visitors, I think better than any other person because I was involved in the project. So this was a big challenge that if I leave the museum, what will happen? So we procured this audio system from France, and I recorded, wrote the entire text which I used to brief, then translated into 7 international languages, and then we incorporated with the help of the brochure. Visitors, they come, they take the headphone, they take the brochure and switch over to the respective language. And with this, I was thankful to the ambassadors of all these countries, those who helped me a lot, and even the audio recording. In their respective reps came, and in Urdu and English, I recorded this. And this was the big, challenge to explain the museum without the visitor to the visitors. Now, as I explained you that after initially the old museum, and then vision was there, then the new things I've shown you. So after all, what new skills were there? What is the change in the museum? Architect was there, architect is now, but now architects are not only restricted to make the building and the civil works and all that, but they are involved in the interior displays as well. So with controlled natural light, environmental factors have been taken care of. Then the use of latest technology and the materials to stop the heat and the moisture while making. Then interior experts were involved in this, in which the product designer who made the initial, because when I collected the data, the first person with whom I shared what we want to show with the product designer, who decided the inner general display. And then from product designer came in the communication designer who decided the font size, colors, and how to combine all different various things in one display. Then the software experts, they came in. Then digital paintings, because nowadays naturally there's a lot of improvement, but in those days I'm talking of 65-71 war. I don't think that we have any pictorial record or photographs of the events in those wars. So to depict the original or to give the touch to the visitors that how it was fought, So I went to the original sites where operations were fought with the original equipment. Means I took the tanks along, I took the guns along, and then I made the uniform of that time, and I did the modeling on site for all the operations of 71 war, 65 war, even the Kashmir war. Then the data was given to the digital painting artist to make the digital painting in layers to make the understand to our young generation that how their older generation they have sacrificed and protected the homeland and given them the space. So just see from old trend, the only the architect and the curator, but from curator the addition of the interior expert, product designer, communication designer, software expert, digital painting artist. Then the audio guide system was included, touch screens, because a lot of data was there which I could not display physically on ground. Then I took the help of the touch screen. And why? Because they war on terror, and about 70,000 sacrifices lives we have given in this war. And it was a big challenge for me because the all those persons who gave their sacrifice their life, their wives were coming, their children were coming. Actually, I made the symbolic gallery, but the persons, those who are coming, they were searching their father, their husband in that gallery, and which was not there. So it was very difficult to console them that okay, this gallery was made symbolically, but give me the data, I'll do something. So then I introduced the touch screen in which all the elements were there. So now I'm happy, many aspects have been covered, anyone who is coming. So there is something for his satisfaction in the museum. Then the last thing, which is Kellner has explained very beautifully, and I am also satisfied after, her talk, that few things which I did, because that was the interaction between the museum and the young generation. This was a big challenge for me because making of the museum, this was one challenge, and then the functioning of the museum was another challenge. So what I did, I invited school children, college children, university children to come and just, come inside empty-handed. I provided them the papers, drawing material, and all that. I told them, okay, see the museum, and then what you comprehend, draw it on the board, and as per your perception. So these competitions I organized 2 to 3 times in a year. Then different other activities, the tunes related to our army and the victory, those were planned. Then the ladies get together. Then the other events, declamation competition, speech competition, basing on the museum theme and displays that was carried out. Then the creative writing. So all these things I just took over. And then I'll just take 1-2 minutes. After this, Kazakhstan has done a very fine thing that they have dished out their rooms to different countries. That okay, come and make your displays. And this educates their nationals. So Pakistan was given 4 spaces in the Kazakhstan, in their war college, in the armed forces, then the UN Peacekeeping Training Center, then Al-Farabi University, there was one corner, and the National Library, there was one corner. And I went there for initial recce, then came back to Pakistan, made the themes of these 4 places, and I think that then prepared all this, got it approved. About 5,000 kg weight I took through air cargo and went to the Kazakhstan, and that temperature was -40, and I took about 22 days, executed it, and the entire project timeline was about 4 to 5 months. And this was the big achievement. This is their Nur Sultan National Defense University, and this is UN Peacekeeping Training Center, Almaty. This is the National Library, and this is Al-Farabi University, Almaty, the Kai Room, founders of Pakistan, and in the same way other countries, they are celebrating their own personalities. So this is the recent project which I have done in 2020-21. Thank you very much from my side.
Thank you for these very informative talk, and very I could see that a great dedication was being done to realize and to transform a new museum. I think it's very, and this is very very appreciated, actually. Thank you so much. I could collect some keywords that could help us in the end to provide or to introduce more questions for our participants and listener here. Thank you again. In the agenda, actually, we have the presentation by Miss Silva Brashani, but I was noticed that because of she is a director of an institution here in Albania for the management of the database institution, but she had a meeting at 11 o'clock, so I proposed to postpone her speech later and began with the next presenter, with Miss Irida Selay. She's a museum curator at the Studio House Kadare in Tirana. And she's a new museologist, very involved in education programs she develops also in the Studio House Cadre. She will present the museum education programs as a tool for social inclusion, and she will bring the case of the place where she works at the Studio Cadre. Ms. Selay, the word is for you. Please.
Let me share the screen.
Yes.
Okay, can you see the screen?
Yes, you can start.
Thank you for the opportunity, first of all. And as Dorina first said, I will present the case of the museum where I work, Studio House Kadare. It is a literary museum, but has also a part of it which is dedicated to memory, moreover to the social life and the social history in Albania during the time of the communism. First, I will start with what museums can do for the community, and in our case was helping build the resilience. In November 2019, it was a huge earthquake that happened in Albania, and besides many deaths, many people lost their houses and so on. So we thought that that was actually the moment to be close to the children, those who might suffer it more than anyone else, but not everyone is actually paying attention to them at the time. And we had the opportunity that we had 200 books that were supposed to be for another project, but we thought that it's more important than that. So we went to all the social centers that were built in Albania during the time to support the children and the people in need that were now without a house. So we went in all of them and not only shared and donated all these books for children, but also spent time with them and educated them not only literature and so on. But it was actually a fun time, not only for us, but it was nice to see the children smile after such a shocking event. Against the current, it's a project that we have done since the beginning of the museum. Our museum it's quite young, actually. It was built in May 2019, and it is actually a project that is close to my heart because it's dedicated to presenting the children with the books that were forbidden during the communism in Albania. There was a very little dissident literature in that time. It was not allowed, the dissidents. It was a very strict communist country, but we bring the cases of Sabiha Simati, Musneko Gagagliari, and many other writers and researchers who had a very big influence in their fields, but they were never famous. And even in some cases, for example, Sabiha Kasimati, in her case, her study about fish was appropriated by another male scientist, actually. So these are some cases that we'd like to teach the children. It's a form to make or help push forward some sort of social justice for these people that were persecuted during this time. The holidays workshops are actually the ones that are more the most favorite from the children. This is a workshop that we do for children that vary from 6 years old till 14 years old, and we teach them how we learn paper cutting and all sorts of decoration that everyone can do by themselves at home, and paper links and so on. But we also have a new project that we have been doing since the earthquake happened. That it's we donate every holiday to social centers or other centers which who serve to the children in need, or children who have not very that come from families that do not have economical sources to buy them books or gifts for the Christmas and New Year. So we give them different books for children as a gift for the holidays. Visato Princession, or Draw Paint the Princess, is actually a project that is made solely for the children which have hearing disabilities. So we invite them to our museum. They visit the museum for free. I must say that all the projects that are presented here, every one of these programs are totally for free for everyone. It doesn't matter which is their age and so on, everything, because if a museum, we think that if a museum have to be inclusive, then it should be for free. In the situation that we cannot be for free for everyone, but we try to at least be for free for people that are in need and need to be closer to museums and other cultural spaces. So this is a specific project that was made only for this group of children, and they come in our museum, not only visit the museum, but we draw together, and they learn the basic principles of drawing or building, making cover art and the designs and illustrations and so on. Elderly programs it's our newest actually program, and it has started this spring. It has started very organically. It was not a planned one, to be honest. It was a program that started by the wish of some elderly people that came to the museum, and they wish to visit the museum more often, but they of course had the financial problem. And when we discovered after is that most of them were abandoned from their families, so we build a new project only for them. So they every month they come and visit. Since March of this year, they come and visit the museum for free, of course, and we go to the social centers which take care of them, and not only give them books to read and so on, but we make some book clubs with them, because we have discovered that this group of the audience is actually very interested in literature, and they all read a lot, and they are surprisingly more educated in literature than many of young people would be, and have even more interest in them. So for us also it is a very rewarding time building these small book clubs in all the centers that serve to them. So it is it is a very rewarding activity for both sides. And they also are very happy to when we donate books to them, because it's one of the rare opportunities that they have. KAZAKHSTAN is another project, and this one is made actually to not only to help people know Tirana as the writer, Ismail Kadare knew it, but also to help the newcomers navigate the city. In the same time, we not only go through the whole map of the places that were described in his books or haven't happened in his books or mentioned and so on, but we go to all the main places on the city. We show their backstory, and even the names, because as we all know, the official toponyms of the cities are something that is of course official, but usually there is also a vulgus in between, which is how the people call different places, and that's the fun part that we also play with in this project. This is a project that we usually do in the summertime, which is from May till late September. And it's actually very favorite from youth and tourists or people that have moved to Albania to work and so on. Thank you for your attention. I hope I was inside the time.
Thank you, Erika. Very, very great and very informative as well. I didn't know how many educational programs we have been doing in the museum, and I congratulate you and all the other colleagues who are working hardly to make the Studio Kadare on the top, let's say. It's a new museum, for who doesn't know. It's a new museum in Albania, just established just some years, so 3-4 years before, if I'm not wrong. And all your efforts are demonstrating this great job. Well, we will pass to other presenter, and she's also a museologist from Albania, and her name is Aurela Lampetro. She works also as a museum guide and curator in the Museum of Independence, and she will bring an historical overview of Albanian museology and its role in the historical and aesthetic education. Please, Aurela, you can start. Please open your mic. Don't forget. Aurela, do you hear me? Okay. We have your presentation, Aurela. If you are working from your phone, we can share it. So, please, Mr. Ali, can you share the presentation of Aurela? So it will be much easier also for her. Okay. Okay. Please. Arela, do you have any technical issues maybe with the internet? Please just write in the chat or so we can pass to I think she might have some. We don't hear you. Arela, we have already shared the presentation, so you can start, but open the mic, please. I think you are working.
Do you hear me?
Yes, we hear you. So the presentation is already on the screen, so you can just start. Don't worry if you are not able to share it from your computer or from the phone. We have it. So
which one do you prefer? I can share or you can share your own presentation, Aurelia?
If you do for me, it's okay. And thank you very much.
You warm me up after the presentation.
Please, Mr. Ali, could you share the presentation again?
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, in the case of Albania, the museology has not yet risen to the level of a science, but it continues to be treated as a scientific discipline. Mostly after the end of the Second World War, the construction of the museums in Albania and their conception was done on the basis of foreign texts, mainly coming from the Soviet Union. The real Albanian museology, from the legal point of view, has its origin after the liberation of country, when the communist system came into power, and here begins the establishment of the network of local and national museums, institutions, even the museums of the village and the museums of factories. Only after the liberation of the country, for the first time in history, the appreciation of the tradition, the discovery and the protection of values of material, spiritual, artistic and social culture of the past became state issues, drafting laws and official decision, and even by allocating special funds. Certainly, the establishment of the large network of the museum in Albania during the communist system became not only an important part of preserving the national memory, but also proving the politics pursued by communism, as well as the respective ideology. The history of the establishment and development of museum is closely related to archaeological discoveries made in our country. Travelers who have visited our country have been numerous since the 15th century, but the real interest in our object began in 19, when scholars and foreign counselors, collecting with rapid excavation, have snatched what they could from our archaeological material to enrich the museums of their countries. Unfortunately, a part of the archaeological material was sold to foreign persons by incompetence, or even the materials that came to light during the agricultural works were destroyed without recognizing their importance. The appropriation of wealth reached its peak during the Balkan Wars. The beginning of the first ideas to set up museum began during the National Renaissance, who, wanting to spread the language and national feelings and knowledge, include even the museums as a useful tool. During the fascist occupation, they destroyed some of the museum. One of them was the first archaeological museum in Vlora in 1939. Part of the objects were burned by bombings and the rest were robbed, which include bronze objects, Corinthian type vases, silver coins and statues. Fascists burned churches and even monasteries, while Nazis built fortification inside cultural monuments. The liberation of the country found us not only economically disadvantaged, but also culturally poor and consequently without museums. Taking a critical look at the state of the assets of material culture before the liberation, we conclude that the occupation has been an example to show that they not only robs the wealth of the people, but also tries to strip the people of even the best tradition of its as the national cultural heritage. In 1960 until 1970, the basis of national and local museums were led, bringing their number to 138. Museographic technique began to rise to the high levels. For the establishment of museum stood out a beautiful wave between the work of historian, museologist, architect, and artists of different types. The museum of our country, according to the character and nature, are divided into national museums, historical museums, museums profit in archaeology, ethnography, education, art, war and army, general museums, outdoor museums like Girocastra and Berat that are cities museums, and Bazaars Museum. During the communist regime in the country were opened even some museums that today no longer exist, like Lenin-Stalin Museum in Tirana, Atheist Museum in Shkodra, Film Museum in Shkodra. This kind of museum still exists today. Immigration Museum in Girocastra, Women Museum in Girocastra, some memorial museum such as Communist Party Museum House, etc. Even in the time were open enterprises museums such as Textile Mill, Bistrica Hydropower Plant, Durrës Shipyard, Geological Museum, Metallurgical Museum, etc. I want to share with you some of distinctive features of Albanian museology. First of all, our museum reflects the history and culture of the people through objects and documents. Second, the objects of our museum are not robbed or appropriated in various ways related to the history of the other countries. Third, our museums are not institutions of curiosity, but center of aesthetic, historical, and cultural education. In addition to the object, our museums are also equipped with aids to better illustrate the history, such as map, graphic diagrams, maintaining a fair ratio between the object and the aids. Our museum holds cultural activities, talks, conferences, meetings with personalities, and periodic exhibition. With the wealth exhibited and the funds at our disposal, museums have also turned into archives where students and scholars trace historical events and figures. They have also turned into historical laboratories for our schools and universities. From the geographical position of our country between East and West, the two most important ancient Greek and Roman culture are combined. Therefore, our museum assets cross the borders of the country. The wide network of diverse museums for a small country like Albania did not constitute a system of museums set up spontaneously and according to individual wishes, but on the basis of preliminary studies. Every museum in Albania today has its own archival funds, reserve funds, and its own library. In our museum, in the exhibition, are found original objects, accurate reproduction of original objects and their scientific reconstruction, explanatory text, work of art that are used in exhibition to illustrate historical events and facts. Work of art are an important factor for aesthetic education. They give color and life to the moments that appear in graphic objects and photographs. They constitute an exciting concretizing object and giving wings to the visitor fantasy. In painting or in sculpture, they create the main moment of historical epoch, but these are dedicated to the figures and events that carry the main importance. The work of art in museum, unlike photography, is a synthesis of many historical situations. The museum exhibition is an open book, a cultural and aesthetic lecture where we have the combination of content with the form. The historical material that is selected appeals not only to the reason but also to the feelings that it arouses in the visitors, not only scientific interest but also patriotic emotion and aesthetic pleasure. The role of the museum in education starts from the earliest time. They have been place of education since the moment of their existence as an institution. The growing role of the museum today lies not only in visit aimed at viewing collection, works of art or archaeological sites, but also in activities, intercultural dialogue, public engagement, participation, community empowerment, stimulation creativity, and supporting innovation are some of the elements that fulfill the function of the museum in the field of the education. The museum, as an educational space, plays a primary role in the formation of responsible citizens in creating an informed society. The museum is not an educational institution in the first sense of the word, but it offers educational experience. Education or learning in museum involves the visitor or a group of visitors who see the object or hear only one person. A visit to a museum represents a whole range of experience rather than the single one isolated phenomena. Museum create learning situation quite different from that created by formal education receiving in the school. Learning in the museum is spontaneous process which creates the opportunity for a more free communication of ideas and concepts, including exploration and discovery. Inside the museum, the whole world, past, present, and imagination became accessible to the visitor. It is considered as a research method which is carried out in a monument, institution, and historical places in order for students to provide information about historical phenomena, processes, or events. This is a method that puts the student in the role of the observer or researcher where learning takes place. Visiting the museum is also considered a treasure hunt. Finally, we must understand that museums are places where time turns into space. Albanian museology is based on the principle of chronology and in the principle of simplicity, because the simplicity and the simple is always beautiful. It's understood that during the years of communist dictatorship, its history and recognition had the place of honor, not only to prize the war of in the centuries, but also to elevate the ideology. During the democracy, that is another epoch in the museums, in Albania, just as certain sectors of life were confronted with the unknown, so even the field of the museum with their employees confronted the same situation, but were not immediate. Thankfully, they came gradually. One of the new demands of democracy in Albanian museology was and continues to be the scientific reconception of pavilions, changing, enriching, and updating with information, documents, and historical objects, and definitely conserving and restoring existing ones. History change, historical perspective as well, and at this time we are free to express our opinions based on the analysis of facts and artifacts without being influenced by anyone. Very soon, Albanian museums were faced with a new typology of visitors who is not necessarily Albanian, is German, Russian, or Ukraine. Their geography varies, as does their culture and their knowledge too. Our museum not only faced their large influx that in recent years, with the development of the tourism, has taken on a new impact, but also faced the need to know some other foreign languages, because during the dictatorship, like everything, the languages were dictated to the Albanians depending on the diplomatic relation of the state. Already in the post-dictatorship, we had to try to learn privately international language that are most in trend. Museum staff began to face new ways of treating visitor and managing multiple groups in a short time. Guide, the main figure of the museum, the one who with his voice gives life to museum objects, would start to gradually change the strategy of work and management of the group by merging with the visitors and adapting to his requirements. Technology is a very big challenge of our institution, especially nowadays. It creates a lot of facilitation in this area, but at the same time, it is viewed with doubts. Even if we look at the new museums opened in recent years in Albania, mainly between 2016-2017, in addition to their scientific and aesthetic side, the curators have paid special attention to the technological side. The technology revolution in the field of the museum begins with digitalization of the museum object, the introduction of audio guides in some of the Albanian museums to facilitate the work of the didactic guide and not to finally exclude them from their passion, and even to communicate with public through social media. The recent pandemic crisis highlighted the need for technology. Until recently, the social media were used to reflect the activities of the museum. Nowadays, we use them to communicate artifacts virtually with the public. In the end of my presentation, I want to say an impression of foreign visitors for the Albanian museums. She said, "The variety of styles and colors show a wealth of feelings and an ancient culture, whose culture stand with dignity alongside world culture. The beauty of the motifs create the impression of the colorful and flourishing garden from which it's difficult to pick the flower that you like the most." Well, this was my presentation. I think I was correct with the time. Sorry for the problem with the slide presentation, and was a great pleasure being in this online conference with colleagues.
Thank you, Arella. Thank you for your presentation as well. Actually, the Albanian museology is, let's say, under construction because a lot of it is not yet studied. But as we see many efforts coming from different museums and dedicated individuals and researchers who are working hardly to raise new approaches to museology, and this is to be congratulated with all the colleagues who are doing that. I was waiting for Ms. Brashani, but yet she hasn't replied to me, so I would pass to the to my presentation. Please, Mr. Ali, if you can share as well, and I will speak about the recovering the citizens after the pandemics, and I will bring a different approach, how the education has been changed and efforts has been doing through the Museum Lab to include a proactive approach to the education. Please, Mr. Ali, if you can share my presentation. Thank you. Well, I am in two hats today, first as a moderator and second as a researcher, but also as a CEO of a new NGO, non-governmental organization named Museolab, which is a center for the development of museums, heritage, and culture. And of course, we will see during this presentation, different approaches that we, as a new NGO, are doing, combining education and the objects and archives objects or artifacts as well. Please, actually, I would like to start by the last year, when we all went to a disastrous crisis of the pandemic, and that it changed our mindset, our approach to not only to the life, but also it provided some relevant concerns, which has been actually very discussed among professionals of museology, museum thinkers. Some of them was the social distance. It provides individualism and loss of interaction. And of course, most of all, and our concern was about the empty museums and also empty cultural and civic spaces. Of course, this situation affected mostly the cultural places, museums and heritage sites as well. And we were all thinking how we will deal, what will be the fate of the museums, and what will be the fate of all the cultural venues who offers or who provides culture to the citizens. One of the concerns, if you can pass on the next slide, please, was of course yes, the concerns that European museums, but of course in all the world, we faced the concern of how will be the next step to open museum, to what measures museum have to new generate, and how the museums would act as educators for culture. Of course, every museum tried to pass on their educational programs, or to transform educational programs into digital platforms in a digital way, and we all witnessed these changes. Also today we are witnessing that this change, that we cannot stay all together, but we have to hold meetings and to provide expertise and everything else that is related with education. As we all know, the museums are the places where the education take place, and that among of one of the approaches of its mission is education, but it's very important that the education and the inclusion could be in the museum. In the last year, was taken several attempts, including large surveys, to understand what will be the fate of museums, how they will acting toward this change because it was unpredicted. No one and any museum was could know previously how they will behave to be more inclusive and to be more educational oriented, but this time digitally. So different, as I said, 2 large surveys were taken by the NEMO, one of the largest NGOs caring for museums in the last year. Of course, yeah, thank you. This crisis, the pandemic crisis, among other losses of life, which is of course out of this, it was the most important issue for the health of the well-being for everyone. But of course, among other different institutions, the cultural sector in all the Europe was all the globe, we can say it, faces great financial losses. So, and this was converted to closure of some, especially to small museums, but this closure of museums, so it provided the consequences of the loss of staff job, but closure of the museum didn't provide anymore the place where the education could take place inside, and all the tours and visitors could enjoy and learn while visiting museums. So everything has to be changed. And the beginning of this year, after some lockdowns and very restricted procedures were taken by big museums, how they will act toward these new approach to include people, to provide enjoy and to provide information, and to continue the life of what the museums lost during the last year. Of course, everything was in restricted procedures. Many museums were facing or were trying to understand also the flux of tourists that will take place in the museum, the conditionals of hours to enter, the timing for entering in the museum also changed. So everything has to be pre-announced to museums. So the life of everyone changed. Of course, one of the most one of the other consequences of these changes was the inequality of the education, because we are speaking globally, and we know that globally the inequality to have the education, to provide educational programs, even digitally, wasn't successful. We live in different countries, and of course not all the countries could have the access. So having the access in the even digitally, and this participatory approach even digitally wasn't successful. So one of the concerns as a right to be educated, so with the culture wasn't possible. Please. If we go, and different among museum thinkers, professionals, directors, it was perceived that the right to be educated with the culture, to be educated properly, to have the access was denied. And of course, the participation in different in cultural events, festivals, in museums wasn't possible. So the right to have the access to enjoyment and culture wasn't possible. Of course, we are speaking again globally, and inequality, even for that, the access wasn't possible for everyone. And the participation in the cultural life wasn't accessible for everyone. And what happened to the cities? Of course, the cities lost also, let's say, the role of being a hub to educate the citizens through different cultural events. But of course, as I said as before, digital doesn't mean always being inclusive and having access. So losing the reality, the perception with the reality, even because different educational programs, it is not the same perception when you are acting let's say in a distance. So this lose of link with reality provided somehow a distraction from the necessity to provide the education continuously, because the long time of the pandemics didn't bring, it wasn't let's say very healthy for everyone. So the distraction sometimes for not being always at the place or in front of the computer, we lost this approach, to say, this interest being every time with that. The Zoom fatigue was one of the main issues while giving lessons, while providing educational programs, while providing educational talks, or even sometimes cultural small events. So please, with please, Mr. Ali, if you can pass to the other slide. Yeah. Before we started the Museum Lab, it was hard because we started this year and we started digitally. So we were thinking, me and my colleague who established this NGO, were thinking, how will be our fate of an NGO which is directly linked with the advocacy for museums and to enable inclusion for the community and the locals? How will be this? How will be our strategy to continue digitally, but in the same way to provide information to be more attractive, or to provide curiosity, and to change the humor of the citizens. So our NGO is established as a hybrid NGO, which combines collections inside of it, and in the same time it combines also education in the mission, but also cultural events in it. Our main concern was to change the mood of citizens digitally. And of course, the focus was most on locals, but this doesn't mean that it had to be only locals. So we started with digital participatory approach, to include some new ways to include people, to increase their curiosity, and we put it the interpretation as a way to be more, this conversation with us to be more meaningful. So we started to photo some old doors, and we put it to have a feedback and history and oral history from the locals. So not just a door, I'm not just a door. It was one of the ideas, digital activities that we included, and this was with the aim that through a digital participatory approach, people could share their urban stories, their ownership of to increase the ownership of their local heritage. And of course, different doors tells different stories, histories, people's lives, but also demonstrate how the cities are changing due to urban transformation. And of course, the main idea, the main focus is also to revitalize these old doors and to give a voice to all the stories behind, to the stories that are behind of them. And of course, we had a great collaboration with locals, providing also information and stories from that. Also, my mask, we started collecting to ask people to send the mask, their mask, but also we didn't want it just to have this approach from them, but the idea was to collect, to preserve some masks from as a testimony of these pandemics, but the aesthetic way how the mask. Please, if you can share, if you can pass to the other slide, but also since the mask was the main object that we could be. We used during the pandemics. We asked to citizens and to send us their mask, and as I said, mask has to be also aesthetic in the sense to understand the mood that it stands behind of someone wearing a colorful mask on a day or a simple mask on another day. So this was a digital activity that we enabled for our followers with digital media, and it wasn't very difficult because through access to digital cell phones that could immediately send to our through our social media, that private social media, and in the social media as well. So they contacted us in different with different channels. Please. And when we opened the center, it was in April 2021, just 3 months ago. We wanted to change also the approach. We wanted to change the mood of all the people, the citizens, from not having perceived, haven't been included in the cultural life. But we wanted also to be the citizens, the real actors of this an exhibition that was designed. The exhibition is called Time. So the time we as an abstract notion, but time which says us a lot, the past, present, and future. But what was the main focus with this exhibition? It would have been to engage the locals community, to be there, to be them, the real individuals, telling their stories, who who loaned us an object, a personal object, that, and with that object we could share stories behind of each of object, because each of the watches differ from period to period, from and time tells who tell us a lot of historical context that object lived. So our community who loaned us and their watches were the main also individuals sharing their own stories, but we wanted also to engage and to try to open the mindset of people and to for a new concept of loaning an object, because we are an NGO, so we are not a museum. We don't have the space to have a repository. So the loaning of an object, of a personal object, it was one of the designing idea behind of this exhibition. So they loaned us. We collected 300, almost 300 watches from them, and we invited them after to share the stories and oral history they had through their personal object. Please. As I said, the organization is founded as a center which holds actually a space which is designed for an exhibitor vitrine. This is an exhibitor vitrine where also we want to foster the community and the citizen to loan again objects, and to put, and with those objects to create stories, to create interpretative talks, and to include them in our activities for our other educational programs that we want to address through this exhibitor vitrine. Of course, we have designed it as a place for opening of the dialogue and many histories, controversial histories, personal histories could be include the different citizens and the community that support us. And of course, the idea is, of course, to educate through the culture, to be more proactive for the culture, to distinguish and to distinguish stories from stories, and to enhance, let's say, the interpretation meanings. Sometimes we do it a lot, but the young generation doesn't know much of what does it mean to provide with the stories also other meanings of a singular object. Please. And of course, the success was there. People came and they are still coming, but what happened, what we learned, or what we are still, of course, in the process. This is a process. The education is a process, so it doesn't finish at any time. So it is a continuous process that we need to do with them, to engage them. And we understand that people want this because yeah, they are open for this, and they are engaging in our activities. We do, as we are proactive in education, we don't have a specific program, but the entire focus of the main program we have is to fostering the well-being of the citizens. So the well-being of the citizens, it means also providing education with different ways, with different alternatives. So we do cultural conversations, we share memories with this meetings and with these conversations, we share the nostalgia sometimes with the object. The object they are the main, let's say, the main object that narrate the stories, and for an individual, an object may have many stories. So we are start to collect the many stories that an object have. It doesn't have to be an historical object, but an object that introduced you into a story, into a personal story, into the nostalgia for a different period, or to make comparison between periods that we live. And these comparison between the young generation and the elderly generation, it takes place within this space, this cultural space. And of course, different meanings and reflections come out every time that we speak and we do these meetings. Please. The other activities we are doing already done. Actually, it was for the International Museum Day, as we advocate for the museums and heritage and culture. These international events has to be also in our are part of our status, let's say. But we wanted to be different. We wanted to also to be to provide another, let's say, another way to perceive a cultural event. It was a cultural event dedicated to the role that museums have, and how the museums has been used during time to time, and with this aim to open the mind of people, that museums are not just for one time visit, but it can be transformed every time. So we designed, or we designed an outdoor event, but also combined with indoor projection, and was street show festival night in the museum. And we collected talks and trailers when from films, and we assembled it all together, and we propose this to our community. And as you can see, it was possible to start enjoying the life, also the night life, because everything was prohibited during the past month. So, but with that, we wanted to boost also the museum impact that it has, or it has always have in the society. Please. Yeah, besides of that, as a cultural venue, we organize some, let's say, alternatives, fostering, of course, the education for the citizen, for the community. And so we had designed some initiatives like artistic talks or literature interpretation that we use to do at least twice a month, because this is the possibility we have. This was the first up was the artistic talk, so we invited the artist, and we also invited the community to discuss about the time and the past, the present, and future, that the time include all of us, and the meaning of time, and how the time was very essential during the pandemics, and it goes to be, and is also very let's say how to be sustainable of the time. So, and we had this conversation with the artists and the community as well, and also the literature talks were held in the lab. These are underrepresented artists or young individuals that want to be artists. So we don't include who is an artist, a known artist, but we want to give voice to those individuals who are yet unknown or underrepresented, but they are contributing to the city with the poems, with poetry, with romance, and so far. So to give voice to who is not possible to have it, and the place to have that voice. Please, Mr. Alim. The other activity we have been doing, it was about the importance of collecting, how the collection is part of some of us, how and we invited a citizen, a foreign citizen, because we are designing to have also the migratory citizens in Albania, and to include them, to have a voice, a small voice through their personal stories, and of course some of the migratory individuals also bring their own heritage. And so, pardon, we invited a collector, and she was speaking also about the history of the object and the concept of migration, and this was shared among us. And this is a part of how to develop the education through different approaches, let's say. And also we through that we also have gave the possibility to talk about the ownership of the heritage, and to promote also the heritage, the local heritage or the national heritage, that everyone is proud of it. Please, Mr. Ali. Yeah, again, part of this activity, we wanted to collect some ideas that came out to map somehow, or to find new inspiration, and to discuss about the importance of the preservation of the collection, and all the challenges that a collector have through the process of collecting. Please, Mr. Ali. At the end, I can say that the education is, as I said, even before, the education is a process. So it take place time to time. So it also changes, also the mindset, the approach, and the methodologies to achieve the education change every time. But what we learned during this period of 3 months is that the cultural conversation was essential and was missing for the citizens, but it also enhanced also their social life. And escaping from the monotony the pandemics created was very dominant during all this time, all the last year. The individuals and the citizens, we collaborate, their openness for participation and to co-create exhibition, because we want to include them, to co-create educational programs, and to include them, to be part of them. Of course, the readiness of collaboration. The challenges, of course, all the museums, the big museums have challenges. Bigger you are, more challenges you have. We are not so big, but also we have also our own challenges. But what we know and what we want to foster is the traditional ownership heritage needs to be the core for the leading to cultural values, and is the core of our mission as well. The cultural diversification opportunities. People sometimes get bored by having always the same thing, so you have to diversify your proposal, why they have to why they have to come to you, why they have to be with you instead of being somewhere else, why they have to spend time with you, when they have to be, when they can spend time in a different way. So the creativity and diversification of your proposal is very essential. The project, we need more projects to engage actively the citizens with cultural values. Sometimes we escape them, and of course the youth generation need to be educated with these cultural values. Of course, the international and regional collaboration is very essential to enhance the work of an NGO that is dedicated to the museums, and of course financial issues to lead the NGO. But of course, things have to be done step by step, and these meetings, I think, are very helpful for each of us to provide new ideas, new opportunities. Thank you very much. And I'm sorry that I took more time that was scheduled. Please, Mr. Ali, you can close. It was the final final slide. I was seeing, but I don't, the cell phone, but I don't have a reply from Ms. Bershani. So because she sent also her presentation, if we can share at least the work that the National Museum, I'm sorry, the preservation institution for the database collection is being doing through at least 10 years and more from its foundation. It's a national institution and is being led by Ms. Silva Bershani, and because her duties were some international meetings, she had to postpone. And now she is not able to attend it. So please, Mr. Ali, if you can share, at least we can see what is being doing from them.
Silva Bershani's presentation, isn't it?
I didn't understand, please.
Silva Bershani.
Yes, please, yes. I can say just briefly some words by my own, what I know from the institution. This is a head institution that their works is been doing with the illicit trafficking of cultural goods. It's important and relevant issue that happens everywhere and sometimes also in Albania, but mostly with the archaeological artifacts, and their work is being doing of monitoring what looters do, and please, I don't have any more information, but if you just share and read what is being written on the slides. Briefly, I can share with you. It is about the work they are doing with UNESCO sites in Albania, we have 3 UNESCO sites, which is the site of Butrint, the Gjirokastra, and the Berat. These are historical centers, but as well there are also UNESCO inscribed in the UNESCO list for the tangible and intangible heritage. I don't have much more information what is the work of this institution being and what Silva wanted to share with us, but please, if we just go on the next slide. Yeah, their institution also cares or also monitor and register also private collections, and this is important because for their communication they have with the Interpol. As we all know, the illicit trafficking is being doing even digitally, so their work is also maintaining close information or to have a national database in order to have the possibility to deny the illicit trafficking of cultural goods and archaeological objects. Please. Yeah, these are you can see most of the collections or objects and artifacts that are distributed in different museums of Albania. As it was said, Albania is rich with Hellenic, Greek, and Roman cultures, and because of that, many influences from these cultures, the Mediterranean, it was a road of sometimes a road of Mediterranean transport, and these are some of the objects that our museums have and exhibit. But I have no information, but museums are, the objects are divided by different museums. Yeah. This is the same photographic museum also. Please, Mr. Ali, you just go down. Yeah. This is their work of digitizing all the objects, the cultural goods that every museum holds in their repositories. So it is the most important institution for the digitization of all heritage patrimony. Yeah, please scroll down. Okay, this is a database of all the museums, but I don't have any information about, but just providing their work and their work digitizing, consultations with the museum staff, and of course other issues like administration and financials. Please, you can scroll down. These are mainly information, internal information, which I don't have knowledge on that. Please scroll again. Yeah, this is the one of the archaeological museum here in the town I live, and this is containing two periods, the Greek and the Roman culture and Illyrian culture as well, and all showed in the museum. But yeah, please scroll. Yeah. They have been doing some studies, as I can understand, understanding the visitors, the number of the visitors entering in different museums, those national museums, archaeological museums, different, especially the big museum in Albania, and this is the number from 2012. But I don't know the purpose. Silva is sharing it, but please. Yeah, you can scroll again. The need for the training is the training of the staff according to museums divided by different districts in Albania. Please, you can scroll. I don't have information. I cannot have information on that. Just please scroll down. Yeah, these are numbers of the numbers of the registration of different artifacts and objects throughout entire museums. But maybe these are their tools, how they monitor and how they coordinate the work with other museums. Yeah, these cooperation among institutions. I don't have information on that, but this is a control of the cultural goods that have been in movement and how they monitor probably the cultural object that goes out from Albania, and how the rules for respecting the ownership's rights. But I have no idea what to share with you, and this is the same so the same issue, how they monitor and the ownership of the yeah, these this is a concern of this institution, of course, because the smuggling and illicit trading has been it seems that it's still very actual. We also we know that the illicit trading actually has been very active in the first period of first years of the 20th century, and because the issue of we didn't have a law for the heritage and the patrimony, and during the Aurela's presentation it was mentioned also the importance or the monitoring of the illicit trading. It has been very persistent during those years, and we have a lot of archaeological artifacts actually that because of illicit trading, now they belong to other museums, and we have the evidences, but we cannot claim still now the ownership to repatriate these artifacts. And because of the unknown way how they have they gone to other museums. This is the end of the presentation of Ms. Bershani. With that, we conclude also our session, the Albanian session. I think we are a little bit late, but I would like to open the the space for comments and questions, and you would like to have, or information you would like to have from the presenters. Please, you are welcome to, this is the time you have to have any curiosity, maybe. Okay, if there are no questions, I would like to thank you, all of you, for your time, for being here with us today, and the dedication you had to listen to us, and yeah, please, I cannot see if someone, thank you. Thank you, all of you. And with that, I conclude this session. And of course, we will meet again tomorrow in the other partner session. Thank you, all of you, and wish you a fruitful session for tomorrow.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Great work, Dorina. Thank you. Very successful.
Thank you, all of you, for your patience, of course. Thank you.
It was beautiful.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dorina. It was very informative session, and we loved it. All your presentations and your management skills, as you were managing several things at the same time.
Yeah, it wasn't easy, but thanks to Mr. Ali, I also could finalize the session. But thanks to all of you, Isa, and all the committee, and thank you everyone who participated and shared their time with us.
Thank you so much.
Been a pleasure.
Thank you. See you all tomorrow.
See you.